Hello, I'm Val Smith, and let's just talk about Star Trek: The Motion Picture. I know it seems like a random thing to talk about, but I've heard people that actually like the film, and I've heard people that actually hate the film, and I understand both people's perspective on it and both the like and dislike. But I don't think it's entirely all bad, nor do I think it's entirely all good. But I will say the first leg of the movie is slow as hell, obviously, because the ship drags on. But there's a reason that, with remotes, they have a fast forward button, so you can fast forward the slow scenes. But I think what's actually interesting is first let's just get an overview of the story. So there's this strange thing that's approaching the Earth and it's going to destroy it, and we don't know what it is, but it's like sucking everything in, and we don't know what it is until later that it's cataloging everything, and we find out that it's the Voyager towards the end. Yeah, I'm spoiling it, but the movie's been around for like 23 years, so you should figure that out. So we find out that it's a Voyager, and that crash landed through after it went through a black hole and landed on this like artificially intelligent planet, and it helped the Voyager evolve into this machine that's trying to figure out what it is, and in the process, it discovers humanity through love, and that's Star Trek: The Motion Picture. And honestly, it's not as bad as everyone says it is. Hear me out. Past the slow moving ship scenes and all that, the story is interesting. We see the aftermath of the crew of the Star Trek. Spock has went on to Vulcan to finally purge all of his humanity. The Doctor, I forget his name, but I always nickname him as Jiminy Cricket because he's the conscience of the crew. He's Jiminy Cricket, all right? I know he's Jiminy Cricket, all right? Sorry, but I'm always going to call him Jiminy Cricket because he's the fucking conscience of the whole crew, and that makes him Jiminy Cricket. That's the whole thing with Jiminy Cricket. He's the conscience. So, so he's against what is like the Federation or what have you, and doesn't want to be a part of it anymore. And there's that, and of course Kirk's completely lost his mojo because he hasn't been captain in forever. And so whenever explore that stuff, it's rather interesting. Them kind of restoring their friendship to each other as well as the crew itself, while doing with the new crew that supposedly was in charge before Kirk, before the incident happened that let him be back as captain. So a lot of those elements are rather more interesting than we give credit for. And the music for the overall soundtrack is actually really good. The later end of the film is really good too. But let's talk about the dreaded thing that everyone despises, the slow moving ship stuff that everyone bitches about. Why doesn't it work? To answer that question, we have to look at how this has worked properly to how it hasn't worked with Star Trek: The Motion Picture. So let's take a minute and talk about 2001: A Space Odyssey. Now, in 2001: A Space Odyssey, there's a lot of amazing, slow-moving, very slow-moving spaceship scenes, but they're utterly mesmerizing compared to when Star Trek tries to do the same thing. Why is that? Well, it comes down to one word: movement. You see, go back and watch 2001: A Space Odyssey. You can see the movement of the spaceships with the movement of the filming on the camera, with the movement of the edit, and the syncing of all that movement to the music, making what is essentially a spaceship ballet. And this is where Star Trek: The Motion Picture gets it wrong. It doesn't have the movement because either the ship is parked, which makes no sense at all. It's like having a ballet with no dancing, because that makes sense. So you either have the ship parked or it's just moving straight, just straight. You see why it doesn't work. It's not because the more rich, mature elements of 2001 couldn't work with Star Trek, or that Star Trek's incapable of doing anything that mature. No, it's because it doesn't understand that it needs movement to work within this sort of concept. It's strange, but even Disney's Black Hole understood the movement better with its ending than most of the Trek scenes in the first film with the ships. And that's why with 2001, the the sequence with the spaceships is utterly amazing, and that's why it works despite being slow. It gives this great big grand feeling because of the bigness of the scenes and that movement and the just beautiful ballet he does, which is more entertaining than actual ballets. Sorry, ballets. I don't get ballet. Okay, but I understand what Kubrick was doing with 2001, and that's again where the first motion picture gets has a problem with that. It's only after I feel that the movie starts to really kick in gears after we get past what is this what is visually the freaking Doctor Who vortex. Once we get past that and we start to get inside Voyager, it's actually rather impressive. The design of the world of Voyager is actually beautifully done, and with the music as well, it really works very well. And especially when you have the ship that looks like that small, it gets this big, giant, epic, sweeping alien landscape, and with that music, it starts to really work well, and the story just keeps getting richer and richer and better towards the end of the movie with that happy finale ending, seeing the birth of a new species and everything. So it works incredibly well. It actually manages to keep that whole positive aspect at the end when everything finally comes together in a sensible way. Although I will say, I think that one guy's weird bald fetish is funny. I don't know why he has a fetish for a bald woman, but he's. I'm sorry. But yeah, overall, I don't think the film is neither that bad nor that good. But people's complaints about how boring it is really misses the point of why it doesn't work compared to other films that have done similar things that did work, which has to do with both execution and the purpose of those scenes. So yeah, I think it's an all right movie. I definitely think if you want to sit through and watch it, you better have the fast forward button ready to fast forward a lot of slow moving scenes. But it's better than people say it is. It's not really as bad. It just has a very, very, very dragging middle, but a good ending that kind of gets overlooked and a decent beginning. So yeah. Anyways, that's all I gotta say on that. Later.